Hello, my name is Jim Downs, and I'm a field specialist in forestry for Ohio State University Extension. Today I am on the Mansfield campus of Ohio State University to introduce a fairly common understory and mid-story tree found all across the state, ironwood or eastern hop hornbeam. To identify this tree, we'll be looking for a tree that has simple, alternate leaves. The edges of the leaves will be finely serrated. They'll actually be doubly serrated. Within the larger teeth of the leaf, you will see smaller teeth. The leaves themselves will be slightly fuzzy, as well as the twigs of ironwood will be slightly fuzzy. The twigs themselves will be somewhat of a reddish brown color to bronze color. And the buds, when these are produced later in the summer and into the fall, will be multicolored, and the scales will be a red and green color. The buds themselves are fairly small, maybe somewhere around 1/8 of an inch in length, and they will be slightly pointed. The bark of ironwood, when it is fairly small, will be a reddish brown to bronze color and will be covered in numerous horizontal lineacles, making it look perhaps similar to a black cherry. However, as the tree gets older, it develops this scaly or rather shreddy bark that will consist of these shaggy pieces that may be somewhat 3 to 4 inches in length and maybe 1/4 inch wide. The wood itself is very hard, very durable. However, since this is only a small tree, generally getting to heights of 40 to 50 feet and maintaining a relatively small diameter. Actually, this tree here, which is perhaps around 8 inches in diameter, is a fairly large specimen for ironwood. So for that reason, it doesn't have very much in the way of commercial uses. One of the more common uses for ironwood trees that get to be this size, it is highly sought after to be used as a yoke for oxen. This is a very shade tolerant tree, so it does like to grow in the understory and midstory. Therefore, you will find it in older forest or maturing forest, and it is not likely to be found in very young or early successional forest where it has to compete with other trees where it's exposed to a lot of sunlight, but rather it tends to be more commonly associated with what we would refer to as climax forests. The fruit of ironwood or eastern hop hornbeam is where this tree gets its name. The fruit will resemble that of a hops, and so you'll have these dried leafy sacs that contain a small nutlet. Those nutlets inside will be somewhere around 1/4 inch in length. Those nuts are commonly spread both by the wind and serve as a food source for many of our different bird species, from songbirds to some of our small upland game species like quail and ruffed grouse. When it comes to ironwood, there aren't really any important diseases or insects that will commonly kill this tree. However, it is very common across the state to see later in the fall a leaf spot disease on the leaves of this tree. Those spots will be kind of a rusty brown color and somewhere around 1/2 inch in diameter. However, those leaves are more or less cosmetic and don't cause any significant issues to the tree. However, if you have an ironwood that happens to be growing in your yard and you're growing it ornamentally and you don't want the tree to produce those iron-like spots, one of the things that you may be able to do to help limit the spread of that leaf spot disease is in the fall gathering up those leaves and disposing of them, at least removing them from around the ironwood, making it less likely that those spores will be able to successfully reach the ironwood leaves in the future. And with that, thank you for watching and have a great day.